Hello, and welcome to today's National 8A Association webinar. I am Haley Bingham, Deputy Director with the National 8A Association. The National 8A Association is a nonprofit with a mission to provide education and guidance for all aspiring current and graduate 8As. We're also proud to work with all types of minority small businesses, hub zones, veteran-owned, women-owned, JVs, agencies, large primes, and industry professionals. Before we begin, I'd like to note that this webinar is being recorded and all presentation materials will be posted on our website, including a post-webinar Q&A sheet from our lovely speakers. If you would like to ask a question, please make sure you use the chat box and select everyone or email us at events@national8aassociation.org. I would now like to introduce you to today's speakers, Kim Koster, Vice President of Product Marketing with Uninet, and Christine Williamson, Partner at Cohen Resnick. Please join me in welcoming our speakers as they dive into the 2023 Gauge Report for 8A and small businesses. Welcome.
Thank you so much. And we are so excited. We're going to get to share with you our 2023 Gauge Report. It's our 7th year of doing this report. And what I hope is we don't have like time to go through every aspect of the report, but we hope that it piques your interest enough where you will go and download that. And there'll be a download available to you in the chat. So just quickly, I am the VP of GovCon strategy for Uninet. I do have a lot of years, 35 in this GovCon industry, and I look forward to sharing those insights with you today. And Christine?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Kim, and thank you, Haley. Yes, we're really excited to be here. Kim has me by a couple of years. I think I'm 32 years in the government contracting industry. Here with Cohen Resnick, I'm one of the lead advisory partners in our government contracting industry. And if you'd like to download the report itself, Haley has just put it in the chat. And with that, I say we get going, Kim.
I do too. All right. So just to let you know a little bit about what it is. Christine and I started it about 7 years ago. And we do send out a survey, and that survey is independent. We have all size companies with all different kinds of missions. And we take that as information and then we assimilate that into a report. And then that report shows us what challenges that people are having. We can identify ways to help those challenges, make that pain less. And then give you a tool in which to benchmark. This year, we had around 1,100 contributors that participated, and we had our survey open probably mid-February through mid-May. Okay, so one day, Christine and I were sitting in there, we said, we want to be the gauge of government contracting. And so we came up then with that acronym. So our chapters are broken out in the report by government contract compliance, accounting, utilization, growth, and efficiencies, and magic, that spells gauge. And you may be asking yourself, why does Uninet and Cohen Resnick want to do this report? The main thing is that we want to give back to the community that we do business with. Also, we want to give our customers and prospects a way and a tool to measure themselves. And then we take this information and then we drive that into solutions for you. So into both our services as well as our products.
So what makes the Gauge survey and the report really unique is that it's theme-based. And so since the very beginning of time, of 7 years, we said, we wanted this not only to be a benchmark for today, but have a theme that is prevailing all throughout the report so that you could use these different reports on a yearly basis. If you needed to go back to budgeting, you would go back to the 2017 report. If you're looking for best practices and internal controls, you would go to the 2019 report. The leveraging technology is a really good one in 2020. We have so many checklists within each chapter about what type of technology you should look for and you should ask about when you're looking for technology. And then this year, we decided to make the theme lead by forecasting. And you're going to see how we break down so many areas of a business that you might forecast and what those benefits are of forecasting. and Kim will give us some really good information on different types of forecasting. So, this survey is something for you to look forward and look backward at your company. Use multiple attributes to be able to make decisions, and really just help the government contracting community as a whole. And this year in our industry insights, sometimes what we have is another company write us a topic that fits with the theme. This year, we decided to break out our small and medium sized businesses under 25 million and take those charts and make a whole new set of charts from what we normally do. So we'll show you a little bit of that, but we definitely want you to download and read through that entire industry insights, where we think that'll help many of the businesses that are on here today, or that you can take back to other people in your C-suite. All right, so one of our favorite questions that we ask is about how do you characterize the current business environment for government contracting? And really, you can see that government contractors are resilient, even if you're doing part commercial and part government, or maybe just all government contracting, especially since you're 8A. We ask people how optimistic they are, and you can see that for this year, they were 72% basically optimistic. And of course, dealing with the federal government, sometimes we have a little cautious temper that we have to have with dealing with compliance, dealing with the budget, and just dealing with the passage of different types of rules. So it was a little less last year in 2022. And then it increased in 2023. And we ask all these questions usually at the beginning of the year. So, that could be a little less right now with just the passing of the budget and the Speaker of the House changes. And then what keeps executive up at night is another question that we love to ask our executives. And what's interesting is this is filled out with about 40 to 50% of the C-suite is who fills out this. We ask that question, and so you'll have to go into the report to look at that. But we ask the executives and everyone who answers, what is keeping you up at night? And what we're showing here is the first and second ranking is how we apply the information. And for the last couple of years, these three top items, resource recruiting and retention, has made it to number one. None of us are surprised about that. Increasing competition for contracts, that has really driven up over the past couple of years. I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago, that might have been third or fourth. And then the overall economy has picked up just because of interest rates and, kind of the macroeconomics that are happening. And then, of course, everything that's happening in the global world. So it's interesting, to look at this and see, what's affecting your organization and what's kind of keeping you up at night as well. All right. And then in addition to that chart that we just showed you on keeping you up at night, we also want you to notice that in the report, we're going to give you data by revenue, by employee size, and by NAICS code, which is the North American Industry Code. We're not going to do that for every question. We picked and choose. If you would like to have more data on some of these, please reach out to me or Kim, because we could, provide that. But it's interesting where, what we've blocked here in the red is that the 0 to 10 million and the 10 to 25, they're the ones that, are struggling a little more with keeping their resources and what it looks like in recruiting. And then you can look at that by NAICS code as well. But it's interesting, just take a look, the differences between what's affecting you based on your size, but then also what could be affecting you differently if you're a 100+ employee company versus 100 and below. And now what Kim is going to do, oh no, that's got one more on responded. Here you go. We did include this here. So you can see that if you take pretty much the CFO, the CEO, and the other suite position, those are a majority of the people who are filling out the survey. And so it's really great to see that we have a lot of C-suite coming in, which is helping to make this very relevant. And then you see our annual revenue size. I was just talking to somebody about that yesterday. And, we have a high level, we have 50% that were really at that 25 million and below. And then another good 50%, or almost 50% when you're talking about 50 million and above. Kind of call that no man's land in between 25 and 50, when a company really doesn't know really where they want to be, and there's a lot of fluctuation in their size. So now Kim's going to talk to us about forecasting. So Kim, take it away for a few minutes.
Sure. So this is very near and dear to my heart as a finance professional, and I'm sure it is to you guys if you're finance or if you're part of a project team. So I think we can all agree that forecasting in a very disciplined way will have a major effect on your business. It's going to make you more predictable. You're going to be able to set your strategic plan and then understand where you're performing to that strategic plan. So we picked 8 different types of forecasts, which we believe covered all the cost that our GovCon has. And we put it on this really nifty chart here, and it's showing all of them in one place. So when we took those 8, we broke that out between accuracy, how accurate was that forecast, how important was that forecast, and how often did they do that forecast. And this chart has that plotted. So when I look over at the 2 bubbles that really come out to me are the cash flow sitting on the right-hand side with the largest bubble. So people are actually doing that cash flow forecasting a lot. It's very important and it's pretty accurate. But then I look on the left-hand side and I see pipeline, and it's important, but it's not as accurate and it's not done as frequently. So I want to just quickly go over a couple of techniques for forecasting the pipeline and ways that we can make that pipeline forecasting more accurate. And a lot of this is in the report, so please do pick that up and you can take a look at some of these calculations. But some of the ways we can really help with that pipeline forecasting is to look at P-win. What's the probability that I'm going to win that contract based on my differentiators in my company? Then we have P-go, which is whether or not that's going to be funded or not. Am I going to get the funding? And then I take those 2, I multiply those 2 together, and I get what's called a probability of award. As I near closer to the award of that contract, I can update those percentages. And if I feel certain I'm going to win it, then I can switch to expected value and put in what we think we're going to get for that contract into my forecast. So the one thing I can say is the pipeline forecast is critical. It's going to inform the indirect rate forecast, the cash flow forecast, the labor forecast. So it's tremendously important. It's something we really should be looking at. Next chart. Okay. So then we looked at policies, forecast policies. And interestingly enough, we asked if the organization had them. We had 53% that do have policies at some level of maturity. And we had 47%, even though some of them are being created, that don't have those policies. We also asked if people were following their processes and policies, and 21% said strictly. We had some others in the 31% that said it's flexible. I look at that as tailorable. So they're able to tailor that based on the type of project, the type of cost that it is, and how frequently they need to be able to do that. I just want to point out one thing. So when I looked at no policies being created in that 0 to 25 million, 25% of those SMBs were creating policies, so they had none, compared to 9%. And then no policies completely. There was 35% did not have any policies of SMB, 25% compared to 25% large. So based on that information, I think there's a lot of room for improvement and being able to produce those forecasts. And I think that's going to be a competitive differentiator for you. All right, next. Okay, so we also looked at some additional forecasting methodologies in general, and we landed on top down and bottom up. And so just quickly, bottom up is where you're actually having the people who are doing the work produce that forecast. So the project managers on the floor, they're the ones who are going to be doing the work. And then we have top down, where the executives are defining a path and what that goal should be. And then they pass that goal down, and then everybody comes up with a plan then to meet that goal. So a lot of good information here can come from both. That's why I love the equal blend, some top down, some bottom up, and using both to really get a good idea of what's going on. If we had a little bit more time, I would talk about the pitfalls of bottom up and top down forecasting, but I would encourage you to go look at the monumental moments. Those are in each one of the chapters, and it gives you some information about different types of forecasting techniques, resource management techniques, etc. So please do take a look at that.
All right. So now we're going to take you through a little road trip of each of the chapters. And we know we have, 15, 20 minutes to do that. And that's nearly not, enough time. So we really want you to make that download, or either go to either one of our websites and download as well. All right. So government contract compliance, this is the first G of GAGE. And we ask a lot about the compliance and oversight. And so we asked about DCAA and DCMA oversight, but this could be any government oversight. And so I think a lot of people probably are asking, answering about the different types of audits, but they could be answering on contracting officer oversight and various special agency reviews of your compliance. But you can tell here that on average, folks were saying that 46% over the past 5 years, they had seen some increased oversight. And we really do see that with the business systems. We see that with proposal audits, incurred cost submissions, where a lot of things have been caught up. But oversight is still pretty much also staying the same over the past 5 years at 51%, and only 3% had seen a decrease in their oversight. Of course, you would imagine that a company over 50 million would probably have more oversight. So you can see there's overall respondents had said 61% have had an increase in oversight. And that may be by the type of contracts that they have and also with the agencies that they work with. Another question that we go over, we ask about challenges. And so we'll ask about resource challenges. We'll ask about financial challenges. This one is about the audit challenges that you're having. And, we do select these items because these are the ones that we see the most. And then we let the respondents rank them from most to least significant. And that was in their last year of their audit that they may have had. And indirect rates, or maybe they're answering just LCAT rates, are some of the audit challenges that they've had. In addition to timekeeping, which so many companies have good timekeeping policies and systems now, but timekeeping is still so important to an audit. And then adequate business systems, we added this a year or two ago as one of the items, and it really jumped up to the top because these 6 business systems that are out there that many of you have probably heard about, are pretty much, a lot of them could be gold standard to some agencies. And then executive compensation kind of floats around from year to year. This year, it was ranked as the lowest of audit challenges. And then we provide this in detail again. Not going to spend a lot of time on this, but you can see where timekeeping might be a challenge to a company with less than 100 people. But then if you just compare that to 100 plus companies, they have a little more policies, they have maybe more sophisticated systems, so they don't have as much trouble with timekeeping. So really take that to heart and, notice that on indirect rates and timekeeping, those are some of the areas that your people should get the most training because they always do remain at the top of these significant items for audits. And then the types of audits that we see out there, some of these may be new to you, but you've probably heard them if you've been around the government contracting environment. And definitely give one of us a call if you'd like to go over what these mean and when they can be triggered. But incurred cost submissions, many companies that have cost plus contracts, they file an incurred cost submission. So that has really always been reaching at the top. And then an accounting system type of review, either pre or post. So go back to the report and take a look at that. And then these are the 6 business systems. And then these brackets over top of them show you who would come in and audit and who has purview to really look at this type of business system. And now I'm going to talk about accounting quickly and give it back to Kim so we can keep it going. All right, so accounting, we ask a lot about net profit margin and gross profit margin. So it'd be really good for you to go in and take a look at this. And just what I like companies to do is sort of, make a chart of things that are in the gauge that they see that they can fall under. And then what would be, for instance, their net profit margin, and compare it to yours to see where you're faring. We had a lot of companies with from 66% were anywhere between 0 and a 25% profit margin. And then mergers and acquisitions, we know many of us create government contractors to eventually sell them. It was interesting, it was a little lower this year, but there was 25% that said yes, I'd like to buy a company, and 11% that said they would sell. All right, and then go back into the gauge report itself and look at your days sales outstanding and your invoice cycle and take a look at these while I pass it over to Kim to talk about utilization and growth.
All right, so utilization. And in this section, it talks about project management, resource management, and it'll talk a little bit about how project outcomes are trending. So we do see a very good number for mature on project management maturity. That number stayed pretty consistent over the last 2 years. So I believe that people are really firing on all cylinders. Next. This is my favorite in this whole section, and this really talks about a project management office, whether or not they're decentralized or centralized. We see a huge trend in centralized, going from 37% in 2018 to 55% today. I want to tell you that more than half of the SMBs in the GovCon space have a centralized PMO. So people are really recognizing that that's important, and that executing projects, having that work will make you more profitable and will make you ultimately win more business. We also see a degradation here, which is good, in no PMO. So we had 34% in 2018 that had no, and we have 23 today. So that's a great trend.
And you know what, Kim? I think this is probably the one thing in the gauge report that's changed the most. We
It
didn't have
is.
we didn't have the business systems in the first couple of years either, because they didn't, pretty much exist. But now, this is one of the biggest areas that I find it very intriguing as well.
All right, so we ask year over year about project management challenges, and resource management tops the list. Next is inexperienced project managers. And I'm just going to take a quick second to tell you that there's a wonderful report out there that's free. It's the PMI Pulse of the Profession. They have a lot of talk about power skills for project managers, which are really soft skills or leadership skills. Great report, has something new every single year. I encourage you to go out and take a look at that. And then the third challenge then was forecasting. Okay. Resource management maturity, 61% are mature to some level. That's been pretty consistent, I think, over the years between 2022 and 2023. So again, people feel like they're doing well with their resource management. All right, on the next chart, we have important is that labor forecast. We can all agree that the labor forecast is really important. So 93% say it's very important. Yet we see a lot of that work still being done on spreadsheets. And that's consistent across the revenue bands. But what I did find interesting in this chart was that under $10 million, of annual revenue, we see that they don't have it integrated into their timekeeping system. So, that's a really big opportunity to make that challenge that you saw earlier around timekeeping to really help get that to minimize that. We also put tools in. And so this is a resource management maturity model. It's very brief. It's got the people, processes, and tools. And Christine and I added culture and values because we think that's very important. This is really based on the CMMI scale, so you're probably used to that. I encourage you to go take a look at this and do this in a way that, be honest, figure out exactly where you are and then figure out where your company should be. Not everybody needs to be at level 5. Level 3 may be enough. That may be all you want to pay for. And that may meet your business needs. So take a good hard look at that. And we also will have something coming out in the coming months that'll have more detail where you can go in and really look at this on your own and make sure that your resource management practice is firing. All right. This is a good news story. We see that large amounts of projects year over year are on budget and on time. And then next we have one of our fan favorite reports. We love this chart. It shows the FTEs by functional group. It's wonderful. You can use it as you grow. So if you're moving from 25 million up to 50 million, you can see that you may need, from an accounting perspective, probably another FTE. But wow, if you're going from 25 up to 50, you may be looking at 9.3 accounting people. So you can start to figure out what you need to hire, who you'll need, what kind of skill sets you'll need. And again, this is a benchmark, so something that should inform your decisions. It won't necessarily be your exact decision, but it's a great way to inform. And it's also if you're seeing some contraction, because we do see some contraction in the market, to let you know what you might need to shed. All right, growth. It is definitely one of our favorite topics. 70% of our respondents this year said that they were reporting some level of growth. That was up from 59% last year. And these two charts that we're going to talk about next, we're going to run through them really quick because I put them in this deck in the growth section just to let you know that growth was important to different functions. Okay, so from finance, the biggest challenge is finding new revenue resources and organic growth. And then if I look at the next chart, the biggest issues concerning your overall GovCon organization, it was winning new contracts and obtaining new revenue. All right. So in order to do that, we have to win. And so we definitely see that win rates are on the rise. These charts are a little bit busy, but on the left, you see the actual win rate versus the projected on the right. And then they're stacked by year. So if I look at over 50%, we have 41% are experiencing a pretty good win rate. I mean, that's really encouraging. And if I look at what's projected, those are very much the same. So I think people are being very honest about what they think they can win. And interestingly enough, if I look down here at the bottom on the projected, we see a big shift from 0 to 25 up to 25 to 50. So people are bullish and hopefully going to work towards improving their processes to make that happen. All right, next we look at growth. We again see a lot of growth, 70%. I'm going to say that one more time because I love that stat. 70% are growing at some level. And we see that people are projecting to grow, being bullish in that area. And hopefully they're going to have those processes and policies in place to make that happen. Okay, so next we talk about finding opportunities and then executing the capture process. So personal relationships and partners, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That old adage stays true today. I was at a lunch and learn the other day. We asked where do they find the majority of their opportunities? They all said personal relationships. But I will tell you that SMBs, we're finding a lot of their opportunities through virtual events and conferences. And to me, that is all about relationships too. So you're able to meet potential partners, teammates, customers, other people within the field. Now, I'll be interested to know, as you think about this, how many people actually have a formal gate process. So I think that's terribly important. 65% say they do. And then, 35% say they don't. And we do see a much lower number when we look at smaller companies having that capture process. The one thing about the capture process is it doesn't have to be 15 gates. It can be 3. So pick it out what is best for your company, and get that going today. So just start. If it's 3 gates, that's great. But do start to put in that rigor.
All right, so I'm going to finish us up here and talk about the last chapter, efficiencies, and then share with you a little information on our SMB section. Our efficiencies, as you can tell, we don't always ask everything about numbers. We're very qualitative and quantitative driven information here, which I think is what makes also the gauge very unique. But a lot of companies are trying to figure out with the new way of working and remote work and hybrid, what are they doing with their indirect rates? So we asked about how often people have changed within the past year their indirect rate structure, and 41% of our respondents had said that they were making some change, and that's the highest in the last 4 years. So take a look at your indirect rate structure. And it might be something that you want to take a look at to make yourself more competitive or easier to manage. For rates itself, this is if not the tops with the full-time equivalent chart. This chart is right up there as one of the first and second ones that company will open up that report and take a look. But what we give here for you is an average, which is the median rate that we see from all respondents. And then we broke it down by revenue and employee size. This is one of the first years that we also provided it from 2019 forward. And you can see in government contracting, a lot of things stay the same. Some things change, but really you can tell that indirect rates and wrap rates have pretty much stayed consistent because people know sort of within their NAICS code where they need to be competitive. And then on the SMBs, as Kim mentioned, we broke down the information and decided that this insert would be very helpful. There's so many small businesses, getting into the industry, coming out of the industry, maybe getting purchased, maybe wanting to grow and make an acquisition. But what we saw is that, they had high gross margins, but then they were lacking in policies, procedures, items around forecasting. Their growth rate may have been a little up and down and shaky. So, it's just food for thought as you read through the gauge, some things that you can do to make your small business as strong as possible to continue to win awards, retain your employees, and stay up with compliance with the federal government. It's about 3 or 4 pages of really the detailed information that could help you determine, what areas maybe you need to work on to continue to improve your company and grow. And with that, we did pretty good for this much information in the report. We really would love for you all to make that download of the report and go through it. And take a chapter, each day and kind of digest it for your business or reach out to us. So we appreciate your attendance and look forward to see you guys at another event. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Christine. Thank
Okay.
you, everybody, for coming.
Haley.
Thank you, Kim and Christine, for such an insightful and informative presentation. Just a reminder, if you have any questions for our speakers, their emails are on this slide that you see right now. You can also email us, and we're happy to circle you back around with them. So either way works. A reminder, this webinar recording and presentation will be on our website by the end of the week, as well as any past webinars if you need to catch up. We also have additional resources that will be available at our upcoming conference. That is our National Small Business Conference, and then also we will be hosting our annual Small Business Industry Awards Gala again. Those both will take place in Atlanta, Georgia, this coming February. So registration is open for both those events. So don't hesitate. Get in there while you still can. And then if you do have any questions, again, on anything that was covered today, please feel free to contact us. We thank you again for joining us, and this concludes today's webinar. We hope you'll join us next month, and you all have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, y'all.